Channel's Week in Review. Will the Palestinian Authority recognize Israel as a Jewish state? A CNBC icon teaches young Jewish women. Obama in the mind of the editor of The New Yorker. And more of the Jewish news that's changing your world on this episode of the Week in Review. Hello, and welcome to the Jewish Channel's Week in Review. I'm Stephen I. Weiss. The possibility of peace talks between Israel and the Palestinian Authority is now part of an intriguing sort of gamesmanship. While it's been widely reported and suggested that the expiration of a freeze on new settlement construction in the West Bank would keep PA President Mahmoud Abbas from returning to negotiations, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made an offer for an unusual sort of horse trade. He'd stop settlement construction when Abbas would agree to recognize Israel as a Jewish state as part of a final peace agreement. Abbas responded on Friday by telling a group he wouldn't do so, saying, quote, "The PA recognized Israel's existence in 1993, and now Israel needs to recognize the Palestinian state in line with the 1967 borders." When talking about the recognition of Israel in 1993, Abbas was speaking about the PLO's agreements at that time. He then added on the issue of recognition of Israel as a Jewish state, "If we showed flexibility on these issues, the peace agreement would have been signed a long time ago." Meantime, Netanyahu is expecting flexibility from another man with which he deals, Israeli Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman. TJC reported last week on the Netanyahu cabinet's approval of a loyalty oath bill sponsored by Lieberman, which would require new citizens to swear loyalty to Israel as a Jewish state. The bill is generating criticism for imposing this requirement on non-Jews at all, but in the version of the bill approved last week, only non-Jews were required to take the oath. Netanyahu is now asking for a redraft of the bill that would make new Jewish citizens subject to the same requirement to deflect in part the criticism of the bill. But while Israel and the United States will likely face disagreements on that conversion bill, officials from both countries are celebrating a partnership this week of 25 years of a free trade agreement between the two countries, and that they hope to further decrease barriers toward trade by early next year. The agreement remains an historic one, as it was the first free trade agreement made by the United States. In other Jewish news of interest in the United States, the 4 men caught plotting to bomb synagogues in the Bronx last year were convicted by a jury Monday in federal court. Sentencing possibilities include life in prison. But moving on to a discussion about making better life decisions, a group of Jewish women calling for greater financial literacy received a celebrity boost from a CNBC panelist on Sunday. Rebecca Hoenig-Friedman reports.
Budgeting,
investing, compound interest,
negotiation, trade on a CD,
diversify your assets,
personal finance, money,
make money.
Money may not be the typical focus of a Sunday morning activity for teenagers, but over 100 young women and their mothers turned up at the JCC Manhattan this weekend for the launch of Life Savings, a new financial literacy campaign from Jewish Women International, whose goal is
to empower girls with the knowledge that financial literacy is critical to their future well-being.
Bringing that point home at Sunday's event was keynote speaker Karen Feinerman, a successful hedge fund owner, one of few women in that position, who also appears regularly on CNBC's Fast Money. Feinerman's key message?
That money equals power.
And at this mother-daughter event, Feinerman credited her own mother with teaching her that lesson.
My mother really did plant deep within me the connection between money and my independence, that I never wanted to be in a position where I had to ask permission before I could act.
The connection between money and the ability to take action is what led JWI, which has been engaged for years in combating domestic violence, to branch out into financial literacy programming.
Women who were victims of violence and had no resources had very few choices. It limited their options. It too often kept them in dangerous situations for too long. We knew financial literacy, economic security was inextricably linked to having those personal options.
And JWI found women and girls tend not to take control of their own finances.
There's a little bit of that sort of protective shield over girls, which unintentionally contributes to their financial illiteracy too often.
Life Savings Project Coordinator Tamar Snyder, a reporter for the New York Jewish Week who developed the Life Savings curriculum for teens, explained how she became passionate about financial literacy education.
And I had this wonderful editor who was brilliant, and whenever I would write a personal finance article, which was an area that I enjoy, she would say, you know what, I just can't. When it comes to money, I have no clue. I just can't do it. I put up a wall and I have no idea. And that really struck me, because I was like, this woman who's brilliant she has no idea when it comes to her money. She doesn't feel confident. That's not cool. So I said, I'm gonna learn about this.
JWI began the life savings program with college-age women, but found there was a need to start even earlier in order to give women solid financial training.
If we can get young women at the age of 14 talking about negotiating, using their voice to ask for things, to ask for more, to understand what they're negotiating for, by the time they graduate for college, they are in a really good place to begin to ensure their financial future.
And toward that end, Feinerman dispensed some practical advice along with the general message of empowerment.
Always have some money saved. Always have some money invested. Spending. Please, we're all Jewish women here. What we know about spending could fill the public library. But you have to spend wisely.
Feinerman also encouraged the teens to consider joining her in a career on Wall Street.
Why? Because that's where the money is. Ladies, use your heads. Also, it's not a terrible place to meet nice Jewish boys.
For more on the Life Savings Program and how you can bring this curriculum to your community, tune in to the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Rebecca. Among the many books about the Obama administration, 2 come from a pair of prominent journalists who also happen to be Jewish, and they were taking their act on the road last week, as Christian Needham reports.
How does President Barack Obama go about making important decisions on topics like the economy and Israel? That was the topic of a discussion last week featuring New Yorker editor David Remnick and Newsweek columnist Jonathan Alter, both of them authors of a recent book about the president. Moderated by Abigail Pogrebin at the JCC Manhattan, the serious political talk opened with a comedic moment, recalling Remnick's reaction when Alter told him he was naming his new book about Obama The Promise, a title which Remnick had originally hoped to call his own later-coming Obama book, The Bridge.
When I saw his face kind of fall when I said what my title was,
it didn't fall.
But my reaction was,
"Hey, David." Deadpan.
So, David, do you know what you got, like a Chaim Potek problem with this or something? That book came out 50 years ago. It was called The Promise, by Chaim Potek.
Let me just say, it's very rare that I get out-Jewed.
But there was less humor from Remnick when it came to discussion of Israel and the recent expiration of its freeze on new settlement construction in the West Bank.
Continued settlement building is clearly a provocative political act, continue to satisfy the right wing of his coalition. And the problem is, the right wing of his coalition is, let me be very mild about it, distasteful. The very powerful foreign minister of this coalition, Avigdor Lieberman, would be, in any other country, a kind of neo-fascist in many of his opinions, both in language and intent and in politics. The Shas party has had inclinations in this direction. I'm not calling them fascists, but they are so far to the right and so provocative and so destabilizing in any political way that the notion that Bibi Netanyahu is going to be Nixon goes to China on this issue is wildly optimistic.
And what did they have to say about Iran and Israel? Find out in the full broadcast version of the Week in Review.
Thank you, Christian. Finally, we recently reported on the first ever U.S. celebration of the Ethiopian Jewish holiday of Sigd, which was then upcoming. The special event has now taken place, and Christian Needham was there.
A large and diverse crowd turned out last week at the 92nd Street Y as singers, rappers, and dancers took to the stage to help local Ethiopian Jews celebrate the Sigd. That is, after a traditional greeting from narrator Zamira Chen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and happy Sigd holiday. Or as we say it in Amharic,
Throughout the program, the Beta Dance Troupe from Haifa, Israel, performed different traditional arrangements, including eskesta, or shoulder dancing. The troupe also served as entourage for the Kes, or Ethiopian Jewish rabbi, Eli Vanda Mentisnot, visiting from Israel, who recounted God's message to Moses on Mount Sinai by reading it in the Amharic language, which was then translated for the audience by Professor Ephraim Isaac from the Institute for Semitic Studies in Princeton, New Jersey.
And the Lord said to Moses, "Speak to the children of Israel and say to them thus." Now you see that I speak to you from the heights of the heavens. I brought you out of the land of bondage, the land of Egypt. If you listen to my words and keep my commandments, you shall be a holy people for me.
Wishing you a happy Sigd from the Jewish Channel, I'm Christian Needon.
Thank you, Christian. That's all for this week. For more news and analysis from the Jewish Channel during the week, please check out our blog at newsdesk.tjctv.com. From all of us here at the Jewish Channel, be well. The Jewish Channel is available on cable: IO Optimum Cable Channel 291, Time Warner Cable Channel 528, RCN Channel 268, Verizon Fios Channel 900, and Cox Cable Channel 1. For more information, visit tjctv.com.